Hey there, guys. Dragon Master here, and I want to welcome you to Star Wars in Earth, Episode 20, code name The Empire Strikes Earth. So, I only have one thing to say, and that is we are getting closer to the finale of the series. After this episode, only 5 more episodes to go, and we will finally finish off this series. But I will be doing a bonus episode around the times basically on New Year's. So that's all I have to say. So without further ado, let's get straight into the video. We start our journey off with the Terrans, who are currently in chaos right now. The morale has taken a huge hit as the Empire was currently attacking the colony of Kaon. The Empire had been fighting there for the past week, and the Terrans could not send aid as the Empire was continuing to press on onto their outer worlds as Palpatine was sending more and more Imperial ships. While on Coruscant, he was gathering this large fleet, seeing this as his opportunity now to destroy, or more or less conquer Earth. But if they could not conquer Earth, they would destroy it, as Palpatine's people had been developing a special weapon solely designed to destroy a world if it landed on the planet. He wanted to test it out on Earth, but this weapon required a lot of resources. And this weapon basically atomized the atmosphere, basically turning the entire air into a ginormous explosion of heat, which would destroy everything and set the world on fire, maybe even cause some eruptions on volcanoes on Earth. This fleet would have over 200 Star Destroyers, 50 light cruisers, and 10 support cruisers. While all this was going on, Vader had spent the past couple days watching Hoth. He decided to stay far away, basically, as he knew the rebels had found out about this and they were prepared. In this timeline, Vader would be in charge of the fleet, not basically Admiral in the movie, which made them get close to Hoth, and they were attacked by, I don't know what the laser or gun it was called, so I don't really know. But on other news, Vader was waiting. His plan was simple, basically. He would launch the walkers on close to the base, but far away where they wouldn't be able to see it, the walkers land. With this, he would deploy TIE fighters to engage them and keep them distracted. Even though the TIE fighters would be destroyed, Vader would not risk wasting the walkers on a charge that they might take damage. And afterwards, that the base would be attacked, Vader would have his Star Destroyers move on to the planet and blockade it. They were currently blockading the system. Thrawn had headed to Earth, basically was at Earth now. Thrawn had made it back to Earth to prepare for its defense, as the Terrans knew that this fleet that was being assembled was to attack them. As for Kaon, Admiral Ghost had finally decided they should destroy the world and start attacking all the other inner colonies to cause further chaos, as he had been holding off the Terran ships or fleets that were sent to attack him and take back the world. They repelled them with the blockading of the world. But he was receiving fierce resistance from the civilians along with the soldiers who were fighting them, and decided to cut their losses, really, and just destroy the world entirely, as he wanted to join the fleet that would be heading to Earth soon to destroy it. So he ordered Base Delta Zero, and all Imperial forces retreated off the planet as they began bombarding the world. As since no one could escape it, it was a full-on massacre, as everyone was killed, as there was nowhere they could go or run. The planet was reduced to basically glass itself, with the world a barren wasteland, with the planet glassed. Admiral Ghost wasn't happy. He wanted to take the world and gain glory, but he knew better that if you can't conquer a world, you should simply destroy it and cut your losses. He decided he would move on to the next world, and so for the next day or two, he would start doing hit-and-run attacks in the inner colonies while sending half of his fleet to go attack the borders where the mid-colonies begin on the Terran side. And then with the Imperial forces attacking on both fronts, this basically surrounded the mid-colonies, which caused further chaos. Thrawn and Anderson went back to Earth, we're basically at Earth now, to help along with the defense with their fleets. The Terran High Command had called for a full evacuation of all remaining colonies. The Terrans decided that Rakata Prime was too easy for the Empire to know, so they decided to abandon Rakata Prime, and the special station ring would be moved to Zakul. They would send all refugees to Zakul, as ships were being loaded and people were being sent to Zakul in secret through a secret hyperspace route they had discovered. The Terrans, in case they lost Earth, would make a jump through the secret hyperspace route, and then basically destroy all files of this hyperspace route ever existing. With this, the Empire would not be able to track them, as this hyperspace route was basically tricky, and they had only one map, which they showed to all captains and downloaded onto their ships. As people were being evacuated, well, the civilians of Earth, there were still many people on the world, so the Terrans knew that they might not be able to get everyone. As for Garrus and Rex, they were currently evacuated in their worlds, as their worlds were a threat of Imperial invasion, as they had been suffering huge losses. Rex knew the Krogan would stand to defend their world, so he took half of the population of the world off of it, while the other half stayed to fight. As for Garrus, his people decided that they would be forced to retreat their homeworld as well. Along with all of the other species, they were evacuating their homeworlds and sending them on arcs, which the Terrans had built on basically most of the colonies, except for the outer colonies. These arcs were designed to take many people to a safe place, and they decided to choose Zakuul as this safe place. They first sent off a few scouting parties after the team had returned, to set up a base there for the many refugees to come. It was a perfect place since it was in wild space. No one would suspect anything. And the Empire hadn't been much in wild space, so the Terrans saw this as a good chance. As the evacuation continued on, Thrawn got word that Palpatine had launched his fleet, the fleet he had gathered, and they were now heading their way currently and would arrive in a few hours. High Admiral Janeway was currently getting all ships in place, while the Terran High Command and Council were quickly rushing at the evacuation as fast as they can. Were just millions upon millions of people, and they had to evacuate the mid and inner colonies, as many ARC ships were launching and heading to Earth and immediately jumped into hyperspace route. All 5 admirals, along with the High Admiral, were ready for a fight. All of their fleets were currently here, along with the defense fleet of Earth. Thrawn knew of Earth's defenses. Earth had hundreds upon hundreds of cannons basically placed on it, ready to basically bombard the Empire in case they ever came, as a failsafe, basically. And they also had a shield generator. It wasn't like the one on Scarif, but it could stop planetary bombardment, meaning it could give the people that were currently evacuated enough time to leave. Thrawn also got word that Vader had launched his attack on Hoth, so he knew the rebels would not be able to help them. Thrawn had basically a quarter of his fleet, under Shepard's command, split off and stay at Naboo, basically. This fleet had around 25 ships, along with one extra ship, which was a large carrier-class ship. It was designed to hold hundreds upon hundreds of fighters. This was the ship Shepard was put in charge of, basically, while Thrawn was away, as they needed the Normandy. Well, Thrawn needed the Normandy, but he knew Shepard would do well, so he put him in charge of this carrier. Well, he took the Normandy personally because he needed it. He told Shepard he would return the Normandy afterwards once he was done using it to help them defend Earth. But Shepard wanted to help fight for Earth, along with the crew who had been placed at the carrier, as Thrawn was going to put a new crew temporarily in charge of the ship. Shepard wasn't happy about it, but he decided to comply. So Thrawn knew in case Earth did fall, Shepard at least would be there. He also knew it would at least be safe. But he also knew that they had fighters currently fighting in the Mid-Rim right now, along with small fleets of their own, basically. He knew in case they would fall that they would at least join together. But he didn't tell them as Zakuul, as he couldn't contact Shepard without it being tracked by the Empire, and he needed Zakuul to stay safe. But Thrawn realized that Shepard, in case they didn't send any message, might think that they're all dead. So he thought of this possibility, but he couldn't, as he had to prepare for battle. And after a few hours, the Empire would arrive. Many Star Destroyers would be the first, basically, to arrive, and they would take the bulk of, basically, the attack, of the Terrans. The Terrans had lined up their heavy cruisers with the most shielding to block the cruisers who had long-range cannons. They used this strategy against the Separatists to attack them, while the bigger ships with the higher shielding would take the hit, and they would launch their own heavy weapons. But Palpatine knew that the Terrans of their good strategy and had Admiral Ghost, who had currently joined in to be head of this fleet, along with his other best strategical admirals. Well, Grand Admiral Ghost decided that he would use the Star Destroyers with their heavy shielding and weapons, while he kept the support cruisers way behind them, the light cruisers behind them as well, and he would use them basically to charge forward while taking most of the hit, and then deploying the TIE fighters, leaving them safe, and the bombers as well. So the battle began. The hundreds of cannons on Earth activated. As the moment that the shield gave out, they were immediately to be fired upon, to be activated. The reason the Terrans didn't want to use them now was because they didn't want to waste the ammo, as they used such large cannons all across the world. They took a lot of power and a lot of ammunition to fire one shot. So they only had basically at least 25 shots with each cannon. But the cannons launched a huge, shot, which did do damage to which would do damage to the Star Destroyers. The battle began with Grand Admiral Ghost's plan working in some way, that the Star Destroyers were able to take the hit and the TIE fighters were successfully able to launch. But the Terrans countered this with their own ships, and Thrawn, with the Normandy and its high speed and qualities, was able to maneuver and get good hits on the ships behind the Star Destroyers, which enraged Grand Admiral Ghost, but he kept his composure and continued on. First blood would be drawn on both sides as they fiercely engaged at the battle. Palpatine, who wanted to set an example to the galaxy, decided to record the whole battle, basically. He had the battle recorded live, currently. And this battle would send a message to the galaxy that if you mess with the Empire, this will happen to you. The battle would go on for hours, 2 or 3 hours of straight-on slaughter on both sides, with the Terrans doing everything they could to defend their home, while the Empire, or really Palpatine, sent more and more Star Destroyers. The Terrans were able to hold their own, but the Terrans realized that they had to use the cannons, even though they knew that they would be wasting them, and it would take a whole day for them to recharge for using such powerful cannons. But they didn't care. They decided to use half of their cannons and began opening fire, which bought them time. The Terrans were able to at least evacuate half of Earth's population. And the Terrans who evacuated took anything they could find: seeds, plants, admirals, art, paintings, anything really that basically made Earth Earth. This would go on until the Empire was able to finally destroy the last heavy cruiser ship that was blocking them. Grand Admiral Ghost had been using many missiles and heavy weapons to break through their iron defense, and it had finally worked, even though he'll admit they lost half of their Star Destroyers due to this. But he didn't care and pushed forward. He was easily able to carve through the fleets now. And the galaxy watched in horror as the Terrans, who they believed were the galaxy's saviors and protectors, were being crushed. Palpatine was happy, along with Imperial supporters who didn't like the Terrans. Finally, Grand Admiral Ghost finally decided to use his last weapon. Well, not his last weapon, but his last main weapon he was going to use to break the fleet. He told all support cruisers to go in front. There were 10 support cruisers. He ordered all them to be evacuated, also to set them to basically hyperspace. His plan was for them to ram straight into it and basically going into hyperspace and slashing through the ships, destroying the support cruisers, but also destroying their fleet, causing huge damage. Thrawn immediately knew what this was, and all of the ships went into hyperspace. Thrawn ordered all ships to move, as they did, but sadly, one of the ships was just too slow. And that was the ship that had High Admiral Janeway, as the ship went straight through the bridge of the ship, killing High Admiral Janeway, along with several of the Terran's high officers. Across the Terran ranks, these high officers were very skilled, but short in numbers, as every fleet had one, and there was a mix of them from each of their fleets on that ship. With High Admiral Janeway's staff, what was left of the fleet was in chaos. The Empire began bombarding the shield, now as the fleet could no longer defend Earth, as they had to order a retreat or lose everything. Thrawn, Garrus, Rex, Henderson, Hackett all decided to retreat, but they would try to evacuate as many people as they can. The Imperials concentrated all of their fire at the shield while the people were being evacuated as fast as they could, but sadly could not. After 15 minutes of bombardment, the shield finally broke. And with this, they had activated the other half of the cannons. Already, the other cannons had already been basically run out of ammunition and were currently recharging. While the other cannons did damage, they only took out a few Star Destroyers, as High Admiral Ghost ordered bombardment TIE fighters along with Star Destroyers to bombard those sections. And they did that. While he got in position and launched the secret weapon that the experimental weapon Palpatine wanted to use. He launched the bomb as it headed straight for Earth's surface. It was launched over the capital, basically, while the rebuilt city of New York, which became the capital, basically, of the Terran Alliance. The bomb immediately hit it, and then a huge explosion, all of Earth's atmosphere ignited and atomized, creating a huge ball of fire and killing everyone on the world, as Thrawn and all of the admirals watched in horror. Rex, in rage, had recently received reports that the Empire had hyperspaced, basically hyper-jumped 2 Star Destroyers into his planet. He decided to get payback and contacted Thrawn he would buy them time, as the Imperials Star Destroyers that were not bombarding what was left of, basically, Earth, as High Admiral Ghost wanted them to bombard what was left of, basically, the planet, to continue and destroy it, engage them. He decided to use his own capital ship to basically hyper-jump straight into High Admiral Ghost. Thrawn told them that they would miss him, and Rex just told them to basically protect his people, along with saying that tell Shepard he was a good friend to him. Rex immediately got in position, and High Admiral Ghost looked at Rex's capital ship and then realized what he was doing. He ordered his ship to reverse, but it was too late, as the Krogan ship launched into hyperspace, with Rex the only one, as he had ordered an evacuation. The ship immediately ran straight through High Admiral Ghost's Star Destroyer, killing them both, Rex and him. But Terrans didn't have time to mourn, as what was left of the Imperial fleet was coming at them, and they had to leave the rest of the colonies behind. They immediately jumped into hyperspace and left. With this, Earth was officially destroyed, and over the next couple of weeks, the remaining colonies would all be destroyed, bombarded, and everything that the Terrans had built, every world they had colonized, was destroyed. But the Terrans knew that one day they would avenge their people, and that is where we are going to leave it off. So, all I have to say is that I'm happy. We're over 300 subscribers now. The channel's grown so much, and I'm super happy. So, that's all I have to say. So, please comment down below, subscribe to the channel, and bye.